Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Council meeting. The Local Government Act 2020, Section 25 states the election of the Mayor must be chaired by the Chief Executive Officer. Part B, Section 4 of the Governance Rules states that the Chief Executive Officer must facilitate the election of the Mayor in accordance with the provisions of the Act. Once the Mayor has been elected, they will assume the position of Chair. Live streaming. As the meeting chair, I give my consent for this open council meeting to be streamed live, recorded and published online in accordance with council's live streaming policy and governance rules. The chair or the CEO have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behaviour and/or comments. Thank you. And I also remind people to turn off all mobile telephones, or in the case of an emergency, please advise the chair and switch to silent mode. I'd now like to read the statement of acknowledgement. Bass Coast Shire Council acknowledge the Bunurong as the traditional owners and custodians of the lands and waters, and pays respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and law. Bass Coast Shire Council celebrates the opportunity to embrace and empower the Aboriginal and/or Torres Strait Islander communities in their diversity. Bass Coast Shire Council will create opportunities for future recognition and respectful partnerships that will honour the traditional owners and custodians and Aboriginal and/or Torres Strait Islander peoples. I now invite Councillor Lang to read the councillor statement.
All members of this council pledge to the Bass Coast Shire community to consider every item listed on this agenda based on the individual merits of each item without bias or prejudice, by maintaining an open mind and disregarding councillors' personal interests so as to avoid any conflict with our public duty. Any councillor having a conflict of interest in an item will make a proper prior disclosure to the meeting and will not participate in the debate or vote on the issue.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Present and apologies. Grant Councillor Tessari a leave of absence. Can I please have a mover and a seconder to the motion that Councillor Tessari be granted a leave of absence from 3 November 2022 to 28 November 2022.
I so move.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Rooks. All those in favour? Carried. Declarations of interest. Councillor Les Lark has declared a conflict of interest with item D.2 Election of Mayor. Councillor Michael Whelan, Councillor Les Lark, Councillor Ron Bauer and Councillor David Rooks have declared a conflict of interest with item D11, short stay rental accommodation, proposed registration fee and amendments to fees and charges 2022-2023. Okay, moving to confirmation of minutes. Council meeting held on the 19th of October 2022. Can I please have a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the council meeting held on 19th of October 22 be confirmed? Move it, Councillor Bauer, seconded Councillor Leserve. All those in favour? Carried. Councillor meeting held on the 26th of October 2022. Can I please have a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 26th of October 2022 be confirmed? Councillor Rooks, seconded. Councillor Bauer. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Reports requiring council decision. Determination of the period of office for Mayor and Deputy Mayor. Mr Mack, could you please introduce the report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The purpose of this report is to determine the period of office for the Mayor and Deputy Mayor in accordance with the Local Government Act. The report recommends that Council set a term of 1 year, noting that Council has the ability to set a 2-year term should it wish to do so. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Can I please request a councillor to move the motion and a councillor to second the motion? Councillor Bauer to move, seconded. Thank you. Councillor Lasserve, all those in favour? Carried. Right. Election of the Mayor. Councillor Lark has declared a conflict of interest with this item and will now leave the meeting. Mr Mack, could you please introduce the report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The purpose of this report is to elect a Mayor in accordance with the Local Government Act. The process to elect the Mayor will be undertaken in accordance with Council's governance rules. Once the Mayor is elected, they will assume the position of Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr Mack. I've received one written nomination in line with the governance rules for the appointment of the Mayor. Councillor Whelan has been nominated by Councillor Lasserve and the nomination has been seconded by Councillor Rooks. Councillor Whelan therefore has the absolute majority of votes and is declared elected as Mayor. Congratulations. Councillor Whelan, you may now assume the position as Chair.
Thank you, Ms Wasty. And I'd just like to thank councillors for their support and a vote of confidence in that regard to undertake the role of Mayor. It was an interesting year last year and we still have unfinished business, particularly around the advocacy that we need to pursue and pursue vigorously. We are still getting trickles of interest from government, but we need to pursue that quite strongly in the future, in the near future, I might say. I'll do a report in relation to the last year to the camera and that'll go up on our webpage probably tomorrow. In the meantime, I'd like to thank Councillor Lang for her work as Deputy Mayor through the year and acknowledge her hard work and also her achievements extracurricular. Or perhaps that's not the right term, but in any event, the work that she's done on her studies and how well she's done there. And of course, I've encouraged her to pursue that, and indeed she intends to do that and has made a separate statement in that regard, and I wish her well in that regard. And also express my great confidence she'll continue to make a strong contribution to council. And without any, is any other councillor who wish to speak on that matter? If not,
Councillor. Mr Mayor, I really think it's an opportunity time for myself and other councillors to be able to acknowledge the hard work that you have done in the past year and consider you've represented council and councillors in the best professional manner and with integrity, and for that I thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Lasserve. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, that brings us to D3, the election of Deputy Mayor. I notice Councillor Lark has returned. So, Mr Mack, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and congratulations on your election. The purpose of this report is to elect a Deputy Mayor in accordance with the Local Government Act. The process to elect the Deputy Mayor will be undertaken in accordance with Council's governance rules. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
So I understand that it's reported the CEO received one nomination in line with the governance rules for the appointment of the Deputy Mayor. Councillor Rochelle Holstead has been nominated by Councillor Lasserve and the nomination has been seconded by Councillor Bauer. Councillor Holstead therefore has the absolute majority of votes and is declared elected as Deputy Mayor. Congratulate Councillor Holstead. And ask if any councillors would wish to speak at this point. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and congratulations to Councillor Holstead, and I believe that you will be, a great support to the leadership team of fellow councillors, and we look forward to working with you. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank Councillor Lang for her role and her work that she did in the previous 12 months. I mean, I think it's been a very, it's been tough at times, but we've got through it as a team, and I think that's very important. So I look forward to working with you, and thank you, Letitia, for your work. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other councillor wish to speak?
Mr Mayor, if I could
Councillor
just
Holstead, yeah.
thank Councillor Laserd for her kind words, and to you, Mr Mayor. This is a pretty exciting day for me, and I'm very much looking forward to continuing to represent the Bass Coast community in my new role as Deputy Mayor. If I could just take a moment to congratulate you, Mr Mayor, on your re-election, and to thank Councillor Lang for her hard work over the past 12 months. I wish her well with her studies, which I'm sure she will smash through. To all councillors, I thank you for placing your faith in my ability to represent our council. And to officers, I look forward to continuing to work with you in delivering the best possible outcomes for Bass Coast. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, I'd just like to say welcome as Deputy, and I look forward to working with you over the next 12 months. We've got some work which we're aware of, and I'm sure there's lots of work we're not aware of yet that we'll deal with as it arises, as is usually the case. We'll now take a short break to consolidate on those two appointments, and we will resume in 10 minutes, which by my clock means that, well, means 1:25, a little bit more than 10, it's a generous 10 minutes. So we'll pause the meeting until 1:25. Welcome back to the council meeting. And that we go straight to D4, appointment to council committees and external committees. Mr. Mack, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to appoint the Mayor and councillors as representatives to council committees and external committees in order to meet legislative obligations and to enhance involvement in community activities and advocacy on behalf of the community. Officers have received feedback from councillors on the proposed committee appointments, and the recommended list will now be made available on the screen for council's formal consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. And I have indication of a mover from Councillor Lang, a seconder. Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that the membership to these committees and representing our council on these committees, particularly the external ones, is a key role for the councillors. And I have had the real pleasure of being on about, give or take, 4 committees. I will this year be stepping off as a sub to the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee. However, there's a lot of indications on the screen for the community to see what membership all of the councillors have for these committees. The council committees in particular are a very important way for us to connect directly with the volunteer members to these committees on a variety of issues ranging from emergency management, road safety, to access and inclusion, arts and culture. So I think it's really, really great opportunity for us to keep the conversations going on a number of the strategies and issues that our community faces. And I recommend that councillors support the nominations for the committees as indicated previously on the screen and also in the attachments to the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I agree with Councillor Lang that these committees are a very important role for councillors to be committed to. Councillors represent council on several committees. There's some internal committees and external appointments. Some councillors do the lion's share and should not be criticised or rebuked by the council, by the community or by the press or fellow councillors for having higher costs in travel, conferences or training or childcare expenses. I believe this has happened in the past, and I don't believe that it's a very positive thing for them to have that held against that individual councillor for them doing their job. This is part of their workplace, and those things are a critical and integral part of them being a councillor. So I'm happy to support this and acknowledge those councillors have taken the commitment to work on those committees with the community and with our representatives. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve, and I second those sentiments. Any others? Councillor Ross.
Thanks, Mayor Whelan. Yeah, I agree with both the comments from Councillor Sir and Councillor Lang. These committees are a really important connection with our community. It's great having those people in the community that are interested parties or experts in their area and that can really add value to what we're trying to achieve as a community. I also chair a number of the groups, around 4, and I've really enjoyed that role. I'm pleased that there's been done some work recently from our governance team in the area of setting a template for the agendas and also the terms of reference. I think that's going to be really helpful because it just clarifies the roles for all the people involved, whether that be the community members attending us as councillors or the council officers. So I'm really pleased that that work's being done by council officers. I think that's coming out early next year.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, do you wish to speak and reply, Councillor?
Very briefly, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to thank all the community members who serve on a volunteer basis on a lot of our advisory committees. I wanted to just personally thank them for the experience that I've had on those committees, and I'm sure that this thanks is also reflected from the other councillors when it comes to their work. It is volunteer based. Some of these committees meet monthly, and it is we really appreciate their time and their contribution.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. I'll put those in favour. That's carried. Which brings us to D5, Council Meeting Schedule 2023, and I ask Mr. Mack to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to recommend the council meeting schedule for 2023. Council meetings are scheduled for the third Wednesday of each month, excluding January. 130 Civic Centre Chamber is the recommended location as it is fitted with technology to accommodate live streaming, which is normal practice for council meetings. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mack. Can I have a councillor to move and a councillor to second the report? Councillor Rooks and Councillor Kent. Councillor Rooks.
No comment to be made other than, I guess, from an island point of view, we look forward to the Cows Cultural Centre being built and maybe we might sneak a few meetings in.
Yeah.
That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. What can I say? Possibly one day the Grantville Hall will be set up right.
Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Bauer.
I will echo Councillor Rooks's words. I hope that the Cows Cultural Centre will be utilised for this purpose.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Lasser.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, just to really acknowledge what has happened since we've, come through COVID and we've actually worked towards that virtual meeting status with council and councillors. And I think that has allowed the community to have better access. It doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing, you can actually hear what's going on, be a part of the process. And I think that's really been a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lasser. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Rooks, shall we put the motion? Those in favour? Against, that's carried. D6, Quarterly Performance Report, July-September 2022. Mr Mack, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report provides council and the community with an update on the first quarter performance for our annual action plan, capital works program and financial results, and includes forecasts for 4 years results. Key highlights for this quarter include progress being made on 24 annual action plan items, with all items progressing well and some nearing completion, including construction of Guy Road shared pathway, consultation on the tracks and trails strategy and guide park redevelopment. A forecast net result for 2022-23 of 17.2 million surplus and a forecast adjusted underlying net result of $2.4 million deficit. Significant progress being made on the $59 million capital works program. Please note there's been an amendment to the distributed report to reflect the Cows 130 Streetscape project as being 45% complete. The Cows Recreation Reserve is 10% complete. The quarterly performance report will be made available on Council's website. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mack. Have a councillor to move and councillor second the report, please. Councillor Lang and Councillor Rooks. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think the quarterly report really reflects our commitment to the community to deliver and progress a number of our capital works projects. I think it also demonstrates our commitment to be more transparent with our finances. These quarterly reports give the community an opportunity to, deep dive into what we do and the work that we undertake within very tight budgetary constraints. It's also important to note that the underlying net result deficit of 2.4 million is actually lower than the projected budget, so that is a really positive thing. And councillors also, as well as council officers, are very much aware of the economic environment that we are operating in. It's something that we're monitoring closely and something that we are working towards ensuring is that our finances are safely, cushioned from these kinds of impacts. It's a really good result, and I encourage councillors to support the report.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Rooks.
No, nothing further to add. Councillor Lang has covered all those points very well and I agree with those.
Any other councillor wish to speak to the report?
Yes.
Councillor Bauer.
Yes. Mr Mayor, fellow councillors and members of the public watching this meeting. Firstly, I would like to thank the officers for preparing this report. Well done. It is interesting to note that the population increase of our shire has put such pressures on our activities in relation to our annual action plan. However, on a positive note, it's good to see that the shire has been so successful in scrounging for money to the tune of $14.9 million. Our CEO and her team are to be congratulated for their advocacy work. Congratulations. Councillors, we've just been given a briefing on the financial modelling moving forward so we can address the underlying losses. I thank the finance team for providing that briefing. However, to use a metaphor, we have just built a beautiful 5-seater sedan, but are putting 8 people into it. We need to look at the total picture so that either we comfortably fit 5 people into the car or can afford to hire another car for the other 3. I'm looking forward to the formation of the 2023 budget to see how we can achieve these savings so next year's fourth quarter can stand at its own merits and not rely on lucky advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Lark.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. I could speak for an hour on this matter, but I'll
give you 3 minutes, Councillor.
The adjusted underlying result, in other words, the operating result, which excludes capital items, is arguably the most important financial indicator, as it determines whether Bass Coast Shire Council will be financially sustainable and able to maintain services on an ongoing basis. The forecast deficit for 2022-23, amounting to $2.4 million, is concerning and reinforces my opinion that a major transformation of future operating results is imperative. I won't go on for the further 58 minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Lark. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Lasser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I believe this, the quarterly report is a good report. This is for the first quarter, July to September 2022. It's the performance against the annual report and the capital works project delivery. It reflects the progress of the delivery of these projects, activities and initiatives. To highlight some of them, track and trail strategy, which is important, which we'll deal with later in this agenda. The Guy Road shared pathway, which is underway, and if it had stopped raining, when we get it completed. I think this report is clear, it's concise, and it's easy to understand. So I think for the community, I encourage people to really have a look at it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lasser. Any other councillor? Councillor Holstead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to make the point that in the last couple of quarterly reports, I've found whoever is writing those reports is doing a terrific job. I've found them to be a lot more easier to understand. So I'd like to congratulate that officer on the work that they've been doing. I too, Councillor Bauer, am pleased to have had a briefing by Officer Mr. Belmonte last week, and I'm looking forward to Council getting in a room and addressing those things that Councillor Lang mentioned in relation to the wider global financial situation that they're in, and looking to ensure that we're continuing to work within our bounds. And I'm very confident that we will continue to do that. I'll congratulate the officers on this quarterly report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak to the report? If not, Councillor Lang?
Nothing further, thank you.
We'll put that report then. Those in favour? That's against? Carried. That brings us to D.7 Planning Application 210518 at 3561 Bass Highway, Kilcunda. Mr. Sturton, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Congratulations to you and also to Councillor Halstead. The purpose of this report is to present planning application 210518, which seeks to use and develop the land for 4 dwellings, provide alterations to the road access, and subdivide the land into 4 lots with a common property driveway 3561 Bass Highway, Kilcunda. The land is on township zone and is subject to design and development overlay. The application is advertised and received 12 objections. The application has been assessed against the Bass Coast planning scheme, and it is recommended that Council issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit subject to the conditions as outlined in the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sturton. The councillor to move and the councillor to second the report, please. Councillor Lasser, second. Councillor Kent. Councillor Lasser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The notice to grant this planning permit, I've reviewed the 12 submissions. against it, but the amendment from the original application was the 5 units, and now through considerations with our officers, it's 4 units. I think this has been a pretty good outcome on behalf of the applicant and the officers to have the plans amended. The height, it's just on 7 metres. It's a fairly large block. It's kind of like a double long block. It's got 4 units on it. There'll be 4 double garages as part of the development and 4 car parking, 8 car parks available within this development. There's no removal of vegetation, and I think that there's a substantial amount of landscaping and recreational space in each unit. There was no objections from the referral agency on it. I did have a question regarding solar panels. It didn't really indicate whether or not they plan to do that. I think that should be a matter of principle these days with climate change. The overlooking issues, and there were the conditions on the permit through the design and development overlay that will help protect the neighbours from any overlooking, and they'll be part of the condition, form part of the conditions. So I'm happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like it noted that the proposed landscaping is of a very high standard, that the entry and exit to this area goes on to a service road and not the major highway. So I find this proposal to be of a very high standard, and the applicant actually mentions providing housing to address the needs of nursing staff, teachers and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Any other? Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Current residents have expressed serious concerns around drainage across the whole of Kilcunda and the ability for current drainage to contain the volume of water that's being experienced, and we've certainly seen a lot of water in the last few weeks. I just had a question for Mr Sturton for you, Mr Mayor. If he can please confirm that Council, as part of this application, has entered into a 173 agreement, and if he could explain what that 173 agreement requires, please.
Mr Sturton.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I appreciate that, especially the ward councils have received correspondence from Kilcunda residents concerned about drainage. We understand that. If approved, this development will drain from the rear of the property, which is to the north, to the existing system, which has an outfall to Fallen Creek. So there's a condition on the permit that will require the pre-development flow rate to be maintained. So in addition, an agreement will be registered on title, which will allow council to inspect the private drainage infrastructure to ensure it does not impact on the existing council system. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Sturton. If you finish, Councillor
Just
Holstead.
a follow-up, Mr Mayor. I understand that the flow rate does not appear to be all of the problem. It's the amount of water that they're experiencing. And I wish to flag with councillors that it's my intention to call for a report into the legacy issues we're experiencing with drainage in Kilcunda and ways in which those issues can be addressed. But for this planning application, it is within the planning scheme regulations, and therefore I will please support.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak to the report? If not, Councillor Lasserve, do you wish to?
Nothing further, Mr Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. We'll put the report then. Those in favour? That's carried. Which brings us to D.8 Planning Application 220173 26 Genista Street, San Remo. Mr Sturton, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present planning application 220173, which seeks to subdivide the land into 2 lots and remove an easement at 26 Genista Street, San Remo. The land is zoned general residential zone and is subject to design and development overlay. The application is advertised and received 10 submissions. The application has been assessed against the Bass Coast Planning Scheme and is recommended that Council issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Sturton. Councillor Lasserve.
Mr Mayor, offered an alternative motion.
Would you like to just tell us what that's about while we get it up on the screen? without speaking to the
Okay, in
motion.
relation to the two-lot subdivision, Battle Axe to remove and the removal of the easement in Genista Street in a general residential zone, 26 Genista Street, San Remo, the council resolved to issue a notice of refusal.
Okay. Is there a seconder to that alternative recommendation? Councillor Holstead, Councillor Lasserve.
Right, thank you, Mr Mayor. This subdivision of into a battle axe or one small lot of 587 square metre block, which is being divided into two lots. One at the front will be 287 square metres and the rear being 300 square metres. And on request from the officers, the building envelope at the rear of the property would be, it's a 15 metre by 9 metre square building envelope. It's 137 square metres. And I don't believe that, I think that in this position, there are better outcomes for the community, for the applicant and for the community. Also, the removal of the drainage and sewage system that runs along the driveway from north to west, which I think would also impact on the development. I believe that the application fails to address the proposed subdivision and is considered contrary to clause 56 of the residential subdivision of the Bass Coast Planning Scheme, and it fails to address the following themes, which would be the built form, the built environment, neighbourhood character, the lot area, and the building envelope, which doesn't integrate into urban landscape. That's mine.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Holstead.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. The community is acutely aware of the need for infill development in order to ease the urban sprawl and appropriate higher density living to provide affordable housing. This approach seems to be broadly understood and accepted by residents, but to support the subdivision of land that, once removing driveways, offers a less than 300 square metre allotment with a building envelope of 135 square metres is something that I can't support. It's applications such as these that highlight the urgency for our neighbourhood character study that I'm looking forward to being completed. Council should be careful not to set a precedence that encourages the carving up of blocks at any cost. Residents do not move to regional locations to be crammed in like sardines. If they want that lifestyle, there are plenty of properties in metropolitan Melbourne that can provide them with it. Bass Coast Shire should be continuing to offer a relaxed regional lifestyle that is not achieved through overdeveloped land. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Does any other councillor wish to speak to this proposal? Councillor Bower.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, fellow councillors and members of the public watching this meeting. This subdivision is very problematic, and in short, this development is too small. The outcome will be a shoebox. It's at times like this that we councillors need to stand up and be counted. It is my understanding that in a legal sense this may pass. However, this is not the type of subdivision we want to encourage in our shire, at least not in our lifetime. The next thing we will know, there will be applications to live in shipping containers. 2 months ago, we councillors passed the neighbourhood character study. I said at the time I was afraid we have missed the boat to make the study relevant. If we start acquiescing to such subdivisions, we might as well save the money it is costing us to implement the neighbourhood character study. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you,
Mr. Councillor Bower. Any other councillor wish to speak to the Councillor Lark?
Thank you. The officer's recommendation is consistent with the planning scheme and previous decisions by council in respect of other areas of Bass Coast Shire, including similar battle axe developments. I've argued against these in previous times, and it's not that I won't support this alternative. However, there is an element of not in our backyard being evident with this alternative motion, without the proper rationale and consistency of decisions across the Shire. I will support the alternative because I don't agree with these small blocks and battle axe developments, but I think the lack of consistency by council over these items is something that we need to address, and one only has to look at the statutory reports tabled later in this meeting. There are at least 6 two-lot developments that have been approved or are up for approval when we look at the statutory reports later in the meeting. So there's a lot of issues around affordable housing and so forth. Approvals of 5 lots in one instance in the Bunurong ward with very small land sizes and lack of consistency is of concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lark. Any other councillor wish to speak to Councillor Kent?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment to be fair to developers that in the right place, in my opinion, 300 square metre blocks of land are acceptable to address such areas as affordable housing. But when I say 300 square metre blocks, I mean 300 square metre blocks, not 300 where you lose approximately 100 with a driveway and you end up with 200. And I think that's the huge difference here that we're trying to make, that the location just doesn't support it. And when you have a look at the plans, it says 300, but you know, take the driveway out, we drop down to 200. But I'm fully supportive of, as I said, 300 in the right location. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Did the other councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Servin.
Yeah, just to say, you know, I take on board what Councillor Lark has said, but I believe that 135 square metres is the building envelope. Councillor Kent has already spoken about the, you know, when you take out the driveway and the garden space, we're left with 135 square metre for a building envelope. I believe that the applicant, you know, it's unfortunate at this time, but I think there's a better outcome that could be met if, you know, if they can reconsider it in another format. But on this occasion, I think we deserve, San Remo deserves better. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sir. Those in favour of the alternative resolution? Against? It's carried. D.8 Planning Application. I just did that one. D9 Basco's Tracks and Trail Strategy 2022 to 2032. Mr. Sturton to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to present the Council for adoption the Tracks and Trails Strategy 2022 to 2032. The Basco's Tracks and Trails Strategy consolidates a range of existing documents into a single source that is underpinned by strategic principles and a vision that guides the identification, design, delivery and ongoing maintenance of Council's Tracks and Trails network. The strategy combines all previous thinking of various documents and identifies new trail opportunities, establishes levels of service, provides an assessment tool for future tracks and trails, and nominates a delivery plan that is linked to the long-term financial plan. Six key strategic principles were identified during early stakeholder and community consultation that have guided the development of the strategy and delivery plan. Connectivity, health and wellbeing, accessibility, tourism, connection to nature, and environmental protection. A public consultation period of 4 weeks was conducted between June and July of 2022 to seek community feedback on the draft strategy. During the consultation period, Council received 157 survey responses, over 40 written submissions to the Engage Basco's website, received email correspondence and conducted phone discussions. Strong support of the draft strategy was received during the consultation period, and only minor amendments were made to the draft strategy as a result. These are outlined in the report. Adoption of this strategy and delivery plan will guide future advocacy, planning, design and delivery of a Shire-wide connected tracks and trails network that is in line with allocated future funding. I present the Tracks and Trails Strategy and Delivery Plan for adoption. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Sturton. Have a councillor to move. Councillor Rooks. Councillor to second. Councillor Holstead. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. And thank you, Mr. Stone, for that report. It's a really important strategy, this tracks and trails strategy that hopefully we're about to endorse. It aligns very well with many other plans that we have in our community, including our healthy community plan, getting people outdoors, walking and riding, economic development plan, where we hopefully attract people to our area to cycle on our and walk around on our pathways, and climate change as well, with the tracks and trails offering the opportunity for active transport, which is a key component. And a byproduct of that, of course, too, people are using their active transport, their feet, to get to towns, then it creates a more attractive township, less cars clogging up our towns. So I'm really pleased that this strategy has come to fruition. It's an extension of the 2016 aspirational pathway. The work was completed previously, and has some additional things such as the levels of service and the quality standards, which are really important and provide a capacity for our officers to deliver maintenance programs on all our tracks, and that's a huge advantage. The scope of this tracks and trails strategy was for off-road shared pathways, which caters to most users. However, it did not include on-road cycling, pump tracks, BMX tracks. However, the strategy does provide an opportunity to investigate further those areas, and I'm pleased about that as well. There were two council committees, the PITS group, Provide Integrated Transport Study, and the Access Advisory Group, that also were interested in getting some DDA compliant routes in each major town. And that didn't make the scope of the actual strategy, so I might ask the question to Ms. Kennedy. What response do you have to that interest that's expressed by those groups?
Ms. Kennedy.
Oh, sorry, through the Mayor.
Through the Mayor, we think that's a really good item to identify and it's work that we've done through our Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee. In line with the access management team, we've got tasks within our urban areas or other areas are suitable to be DDA compliant. And we can work with the various groups to both and bring some of that.
Thank you. One area of concern which has come out of the tracks and trails strategy is the assessment tool, and particularly the connectivity, which is one of the key criteria. There was 9 criteria amongst the assessment tool. And the connectivity one, again, has strong links to active transport. The early key stakeholder engagement listed it as the #1 assessment criteria, that being connectivity. However, through the draft, it came out equal weighting with various other assessment tools or assessment measures. In response to the draft, the Philippine Integration Transport Study also mentioned the fact that it should have been ranked on its own, similar to what the key stakeholder engagement group did. As a result of this connectivity not being highly ranked, some of the routes are listed higher, which don't have connectivity, than routes that would be connected between 2 towns. And so through the Mayor, I'd like to ask the question to Mr. Sturton again. How does the strategy deal with this issue?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The tracks and trails strategy and delivery plan looks to create an interconnected network across the entire Shire. We're not going to find ourselves in a situation where we're building a path that starts from nowhere and runs to nowhere without it being connected. And so we'll be looking to extend the network out as much as we possibly can in line with the strategy to those tracks and trails that are ranked highest. The delivery plan, the assessment tool will assess different tracks and trails. Different criteria are weighted according to those trails, but we will be building an interconnected network over the next 10 years.
Councillor, looks like you're running close to time, so I'll ask you to wrap up.
All right, thank you. I'm very pleased it's a 10-year strategy that we've got. We've got a budget allocated $1 million in our long-term financial plan, and there's a delivery plan that's going to go for 3 years, which is great, which is got an implementation and delivery plan. And just one final question would be, if I can through you, Mr. Mayor, what process happens after the 3 years with regards to the delivery plan?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the strategy itself is a 10-year plan, which is tied to the 10-year long-term financial plan with $1 million per year. We've got a delivery plan at the moment that looks over the next 3 years. We'll be coming back to council every single year about the feasibility, design and construction of which paths we are undertaking that particular year. Once the delivery plan has run its course, we will come back to council with a new delivery plan to focus on the next 4 years. A delivery plan at the moment is tied to this particular council term, also state government and federal government election cycles, which are going to determine our advocacy priorities moving forward.
Thank you, Mr Sturton. Thanks, Councillor Rooks. I'll move on now to Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to thank the residents who've contacted me in relation to the alignments of the proposed trails that feature in this document. Community engagement will be crucial to the success or not of any of these proposals. I did receive significant contact regarding Cows to Vetnor foreshore proposal and wish to allay any fears residents there may have by highlighting this as a high-level document that references proposed, and I stress proposed links, but that will go through further rigorous community engagement before proceeding with on-the-ground outcomes. The document itself is both informative and well written. It is evidence that the need for tracks and trails across the Shire should be a priority, and it is pleasing that funding has been identified in the long-term financial plan. I'd like to stop there and say congratulations to Councillor Rooks, who has had a special interest in this area and has brought, this whole strategy to this point. And has been very involved along the way. So congratulations to him for getting it here. I'm especially pleased to note the link between Newhaven and Churchill Island, which has long been a safety concern for those wishing to utilise the Churchill Island track. Crossing Phillip Island Road to be greeted with no track or footpath on the other side is a frightening experience. I've run that gauntlet myself, so I'm pleased to see that this link features with a high priority ranking, and I will be supporting the strategy today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I wanted to do a little bit of a detailed comment on the Tracks and Trails strategy. I think it's really great to see how the Tracks and Trails strategy actually addresses how our council engages with other organisations, particularly the state government and other councils, to extend connectivity, not just within the Bass Coast Shire, but within, broader Victoria, actually, particularly through the Gippsland Odyssey Trail, and also with the Yellow Bullock Marine Coastal Park, which is proposed to go from San Remo to Inverloch. One of the pathways that the community, at least in the Bunurong ward, has been advocating for a very long time has been connection from Cape Patterson to Inverloch along that coastal route. And that is something that has been earmarked through the Yellow Bullock Marine and Coastal Path, and therefore something that I would encourage the state government to look at in greater detail and, potential with sensitivity and also creativity as to what opportunities there are to allow people to ride that road safely or walk it potentially as part of the Yellow Bullock Marine and Coastal Path. It's also great to see that the Ozone Street to Garrote Street shared pathway is considered a high priority. So that's definitely something we want to see get done, and it's definitely in there. So I just wanted to really point those things out. There's a lot to go through, but I encourage the community to have a squiz and not necessarily read the whole thing. It's a big chunk of document, but yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Any other councillor wish to speak to Councillor Bauer?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Fellow councillors, member of the public watching this meeting. The Tracks and Trails strategy is important and I'm on record for support. This report states, offers a connected and accessible trail network that supports active and healthy communities, showcases and protects the natural environment, and encourages increased visitation to the region. Visitors to the region will use the trails for recreational use only. The distances between the towns and hamlets are too great for most people to use these tracks and trails as a usual form of commute. I acknowledge that electric bikes and scooters will give people a better chance of using the trails. However, the car will still be the transport of choice. On page 76, the report states, offer a connected and accessible trail network. In light of our necessity to look for savings in our capital works program, moving forward, we should join and fix what we have before looking at new projects. As things stand, the most important part of this strategy is to build the missing sections between Cows and Real Track, paying particular attention to the section from Conservation Hill leading into Real. Also, before we start any new tracks, we must improve and make safe what we have. The main bike track from Cows to St. Remo must have at least an upgraded pedestrian crossing at New Haven College. The track needs to be a shared pathway all the way into San Remo. The San Remo to Anderson track has to be renovated, so it's family friendly. At present, the track is sparsely used due to the steep hills. I note in relation to the petitions fought against Cows to Ventnor track on page 77, for every name in favour of the track, there's almost 2 against it. The people have spoken. A track hacking through the foreshore vegetation has to be scrapped. Some people have the audacity to call the vegetation along this foreshore weeds. I assure you, the wildlife calls it home. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Is any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Lark?
I just wish to support Councillor Lang's comments about the Bullock Trail and tracks and trails and the connection between Cape Patterson and Inverloch. And I think that should be the priority rather than what I object to, the inland trail from Wonthaggi to Inverloch. Duplication of tracks and trails is non-economic. There's millions of dollars going into the inland trail that could be prioritised elsewhere in council's funding, and I won't be supporting the tracks and trails strategy because of that priority given over the next few years in relation to the inland trail between Wonthaggi and Inverloch. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lark. Any other councillor wish to speak to the report? Otherwise, Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. I just want to thank the community. As Mr. said before, there was massive interest and feedback from the community. So thank you so much. There are so many people I know that want to ride around around the island and around our shire, but they don't because they don't feel safe. They're basically constricted to the footpaths where the cars are coming out all the time or they're on the road. And so there's so many people that are going to be able to embrace this strategy. And the other good reason that people want to do it is because we have beautiful views, rural views, coastline views, people want to get out and enjoy it. So we have a plan now, we have a budget, and we're looking forward to the delivery of this strategy.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. We'll put that report. Those in favour? Against? It's carried. Brings us to D10 draft communications and engagement strategy, and I call on Mr. Box to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek authorisation from the Council to release the draft communications and engagement strategy for further community consultation. The purpose of this strategy is to set the foundation for how Council will prioritise its key communications and engagement activities. It creates an open communication about the Council's activities and provides opportunity for extensive engagement and input into Council's decisions. The draft strategy is informed by existing policy and strategy, as well as preliminary feedback from community consultation undertaken earlier this year. Further consultation on the draft strategy is an essential next step to ensure the final document presented to Council is the best representation of the community's needs and expectations. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Box. We have a councillor to move and a councillor to second the report, please. Councillor Lasserve and Councillor Rooks. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I think the release of this draft document, the communication engagement strategy is really an important document. I'm trying to emphasise that the community should get on board. It is essential that the community give us their feedback. I mean, it's up to the community. Get on, engage Bass Coast. I can't speak more highly of that platform, and I think that's been a really great initiative for the council. It's an opportunity to have this say. So I think that now we'll need to just wait, and hopefully we'll get that feedback that people have got a lot to say sometimes, and we just need to hear that. If they want to be positive about it or negative about it, just get it back to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Rooks.
Thanks, Mayor Whelan. This is again a really important piece of work that you engage on so many different projects we have and policies within our community. So this is the second stage of consultation, so it's good to see it's happening. I sort of laughed at when I read the report and looked at the primary channels that we have of communication. I noticed that face-to-face and the phone are no longer primary channels of communication. It's all about email, direct mail, Engage Basco's website, social media, how things have changed. One of the things that I was really pleased to see is that there's 4 pillars that were mentioned or are mentioned in the report, and one of them is access and inclusion, which means that we will make sure that we get to all people in our community. And that got me thinking about how during the COVID-19, I remember how the state government struggled getting to all people in the community. So I'm glad we're going to do that as one of our pillars. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Any other councillor wish to speak to the report? If not, Councillor Lasserve, shall we put the report in? Put the report. Those in favour? Against, that's carried. Which brings us to D11, short stay rental accommodation proposed registration fee and amendments to fees and charges 2022-2023. Councillor Bauer, Councillor Lark, Councillor Rooks and I have all declared a conflict of interest in this item. Therefore, Council is unable to maintain a quorum to determine this matter. I'll now invite Mr Mack to provide advice on how we proceed from here.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 4 councillors have declared a conflict of interest in relation to item D11. With Councillor Tessari on a leave of absence, that leaves Council without a quorum to determine this matter, and there is uncertainty about the ability to determine this matter at a future meeting. Section 67 of the Local Government Act requires Council to consider whether the matter can be dealt with in an alternative manner, such as splitting the recommendation or making a prior determination on the component parts. These are not considered available options at this time, and the setting of fees and charges is not something that can be delegated. Section 67 Part 4 of the Act says that if the Council cannot determine the matter in an alternative way, then the Council must decide to establish a delegated committee to make the decision. The delegated committee must consist of all available councillors without a conflict and any other persons that the Council considers suitable. I recommend that the delegated committee consist of Councillor Halstead as Chair, Councillor Kent, Councillor Lang, Councillor Lasserve, General Manager of Resilient Communities and the General Manager of Business Transformation. The delegated committee is subject to the same governance rules as the council meeting, and it is recommended for consideration of this report only. A recommendation will be made available on the screen for council to consider in relation to this matter. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mack. If we can have that recommendation on the screen, there we have it. And let me emphasise that we're not voting on the area that's subject to an interest. We're voting on a way to deal with that excludes the people with an interest. So that's there. Can I have someone to move? Councillor Bauer, seconded. Councillor Rooks. Councillor Bauer, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think this is a sensible way out of a very prickly situation, and I so recommend that this action be taken.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Rooks?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with that process. And can I just confirm through you, Mr Mayor, is that date still effective or not? It is? Okay. Yep.
Okay. Any other councillor wish to speak to this proposal? If not, Councillor Bauer, shall we put this to vote? Those in favour? Against, that's carried. D12 Audit and Risk Committee recruitment of independent member. Ask Mr Mack to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek council approval to commence the process for the recruitment of an independent member to the Audit and Risk Committee. Mr Vince Philpott's final 2-year term concludes on 31 May 2023, and no further extensions are available under the committee charter. A recruitment process is required to select a new independent member. The report outlines the panel, timelines and criteria for the recruitment process with a recommendation to be made to the April 2023 council meeting.
Thank you, Mr Mack. Can I have a councillor to move and a councillor to second the report, please? Councillor Lasserve, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, it is an important, a vital role, and it's about it assisting with the transparency of council. Council is committed to seeing independent members on the Audit and Risk Committee. And I'd like to also thank the outgoing member, Mr Philpott, for his sharing and commitment to ensuring Bass Coast is Best Coast Meeting in its legal and financial and moral responsibilities. So, you know, excellent job to him. I wish him well and totally endorse the recommendation.
Thank you, councillor Lasert. Councillor Bauer.
And nothing further.
Nothing further. Any other councillor wish to speak to this proposal? Councillor Lark.
The composition of the audit committee, including both external and internal committee members, is critical for council. And if not already done, I would suggest that a skills matrix be drawn up right across the 5 members to ensure that there are complementary skills and expertise and knowledge in both areas of audit and risk. That's just a suggestion to take on in the recruitment element. Thank you.
Councillor Lasert, shall we?
No, as long as that was clear, that's fine.
Yeah. Thank you, councillor Lark. Councillor Lane.
I nearly unmuted myself. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just really wanted to quickly add that the skills matrix, as Councillor Lark highlighted, is a very important part of the process. And that was something that I raised during the council briefings as to whether a skills matrix would be undertaken, and I was assured that yes, that was part of the process. So rest assured, Councillor Lark, that is something that will be undertaken as part of the recruitment process for the independent member of the Audit and Risk Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Any other councillor wish to speak to this report?
Councillor-
Otherwise, Councillor Sir.
Councillor Whelan, I can't see
Yeah,
you on.
Councillor Lark.
I can't see your view on screen.
There you go. And we can't have that. There I am.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Lark. So we're just about to put this report now. Those in favour? Against, that's carried. That brings us to D13 Wonthaggi Cemetery Trust and San Remo Cemetery Trust Abstract of Account 2021-2022. Mr Mack, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose and focus of this report is to present the abstract of accounts for Wonthaggi Cemetery Trust and San Remo Cemetery Trust for the 2021-2022 financial year. This is an annual statutory reporting requirement regarding the financial position and performance of both these Class B cemetery trusts, according to the Department of Health and Human Services. Wonthaggi Cemetery Trust returned a profit of $49,290, with bodily interments remaining steady and a slight decrease in cremated remains interments compared to previous years. San Remo returned a profit of $6,452, with an increase in demand for interments of bodily and cremated remains compared to previous years. 30% of the profits will serve into the respective perpetual maintenance accounts for each cemetery. It is recommended that Council notes the accounts and appoints the Mayor and Deputy Mayor to sign them. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mack. Can I have a councillor to move and a councillor second the report, please? Councillor Holstead. A seconder, Councillor Lang. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to say there's some pretty incredible examples of cemeteries across Australia that have become part of the communities in which they're located, simply by making them more attractive to visit. There's provision of seating, maintaining of grounds. I know of some cemeteries where people actually go there to picnic with their families. So these are sacred sites. They're the resting place of Bass Coast community members, including veterans, and all who are gravely missed by family and friends. They should be a place of reflection for those left behind and grieving. As the trustees of our two cemeteries, I'm sorry to say, but we should be embarrassed at the standard that they have been left to remain in. I'll be supporting the recommendation. In doing so, I ask that officers move swiftly in completing the review to confirm the future management and encourage a more satisfactory arrangement for maintaining both sites. And I would encourage Council to consider investing in both cemeteries and just bringing the standard up a little bit to make it more appealing for loved ones to visit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think it's really important that we do preserve and maintain these cemeteries to a very high standard. I think that the work that has been undertaken there by the staff and the teams from C2A has been of a standard that potentially there is room for improvement. But I also wanted to really acknowledge the work that we've been doing with the teams that do undertake the work there. The reports highlight a profit, but there are question marks on the ongoing ability for the cemetery trust to be financially sustainable. And I too look forward to the review that Councillor Holstead has mentioned. And I think it's an important report and something that needs to be noted.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question to council officers through you, if I may. In both reports, it suggests that council subsidise the delivery of general maintenance, administration support and capital works. Is it possible for a figure to be gained on that the council has contributed?
Through Mr. Mayor, across the two cemetery trusts, it's about $100,000 each year.
Thank you.
That's all, councillor Kent. Any other councillor wish to speak to this? Councillor Lark?
I wish to say sorry. Sorry to our community, families and descendants of our dearly departed loved ones and war veterans for the neglect of our historical cemeteries. I am ashamed of what we do and what we have done for over a long period of time, and things need to change. Thank you.
Thanks, councillor Lark. Any other councillor wish to speak to this report? Otherwise, councillor Holstead, we put the report. Those in favour of the report? Against? Carried. Which brings us to D14, award of tender number 22017, reconstruction of Shetland Heights Road, San Remo. Mr. Sturt will introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present a tender award, tender number 22017, reconstruction of Shetland Heights Road, San Remo. These works will construct 4 light roads and drainage along Shetland Heights Road between Potters Hill Road and Betty Wells Drive. The construction will also include traffic calming measures, including 4 speed bumps, traffic islands and safety signage. The project is within budget and has been successful in obtaining $1,847,000 of funding through the Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program, and is supplemented further by a council contribution of $220,000. Assessment of the 6 tenders has been conducted in line with council's quadruple bottom line policy. It is recommended the council award tender number 22017 to SR Excavations, the contract sum of $1,887,642.30 plus GST. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sturt. You have a councillor to move and seconded Councillor Holstead, seconded Councillor Kent, was it? Yeah. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought we'd end up in a bit of a skirmish in the middle of the room, us Western Port councillors on this one. The community surrounding the new Bass Coast Secondary College in San Remo will be pleased to see this project up and running after the opening of the school. Caused a lot of concern for students' safety when making their way to and from school. Locals all knew that Shetland Heights Road would be an access point and was without footpaths, sealed roads and a crest that can make visibility difficult at sunset. Thank you to council officers for streamlining the process to ensure works could begin as quickly as possible, the first of which was a footpath completed prior to the opening of the school at the start of the year. The construction of this road will be very much appreciated by those who reside there and will make this part of San Remo a lot safer. So I'm very excited that we are at this stage and awarding the tender. Hopefully council will support.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been a long journey for the residents. I hear with interest in regards to the speed humps and traffic calming, which has been of great concern to the local residents in that area. I look forward to the completion of this.
Thanks, Councillor Kent. Councillor, anyone else want to?
No, it's all right. I'm happy about it.
If not, shall we put that report? Those in favour? Against, that's carried. The D15 award of tender number 22018, construction of skate park and renewal play space, Kilcunda Foreshore. Mrs. Kennedy, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek council approval to award tender 22018 for the construction of a skate park and renewal of play space at Kilcunda Foreshore. The evaluation panel concludes that the tender submitted by Green Project Proprietary Limited will satisfy the requirements of the works and will provide council with best value for money. As the tender submission price is higher than the allocated budget for the project, the panel's recommendation is for council to approve an additional funds of $148,500, allowing the project to continue and to award contract number 22018 to Grant Project Proprietary Limited. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Can I have a councillor to move and councillor second the report? Councillor Holstead and Councillor Kent. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Another skirmish took place behind cameras. One might say that Western Port Ward is featuring heavily in this agenda, and it's terrific to see that the projects councillors have been gently pushing forward in the background and finally at this stage. This tender will make a lot of young and older people very happy, not just in Kilcunda, but across the whole of Basco Shire. So I will definitely be supporting the recommendation. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Councillor Kent.
Nothing to say.
Nothing to say. Any other councillor wish to say? Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've noticed on this report that all due diligence has been taken and the Chief Executive Officer is to execute the contract. I'm sure we're not skating up this here.
Dad joke.
Oh, right, okay. I'm immune to dad jokes if you can get it. All right, any other councillor wish to speak to the report? If not, we put that. Councillor. Where? Oh, Councillor Lark, sorry. Councillor Lark.
Thank you. I will be supporting this project, of course. It's a wonderful project. However, it's important that councillors know that the treatment of the so-called discretionary or strategic reserves, such as the skate park and play space reserve, does not mean that council has the cash available to allocate to the reserve's purpose. As stated in previous council meetings, I have calculated a significant shortfall in cash to fund these reserves, and in all likelihood, council needs to recognise that the additional budget requested will not come by way of just book entry from that reserve, but will ultimately come through further borrowings. I just need to make that clear, that you just don't transfer money out of a reserve where the cash isn't there to support it. It will ultimately come from borrowings.
Thank you, Councillor Lark. Any other councillor wish to speak to the report? If not, we put that report.
I just wanted to clarify, Mr Mayor, my understanding of the Kilcunda Skate Park through you, Mr Mayor, to Ms Kennedy. We received a grant for this skate park, didn't we? This isn't coming out of reserves?
Yep, through the mayor, yes, we did. But we also providing a cash contribution, which is a council contribution, and it's just coming above the original budget. So we're applying additional funds, and this is coming out of skate reserve.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, what was the amount that was coming out of reserves, the extra?
Over and above so the over and above, which is in the recommendation,
yes,
is 148,500, which is from the reserve, which there is money in that reserve.
Mr Mack, did you need to add to that?
Advice I have from the finance team is, as at 30th of June 2022, the skate park reserve has a balance of $509,000, and the commitments in the long-term financial plan mean that this money is available for the program.
So it's not a borrowing, it's a reserve.
That's right. So through you, Mr Mayor, the uncommitted balance is $309,000, and that's more than sufficient to cover the approximately $150,000 shortfall.
Thank you, Mr Mack.
So you're happy with that? We'll put that report. Those in favour? Against? That's carried. That brings us to notices of motion. We have one notice of motion, 250-22, I don't know what that means. School Crossing Supervisors 2022. Councillor Rochelle Holstead, would you please move and read the motion without speaking to it, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Do we have it to put up on the screen? Oh, we don't. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Bauer. The motion I'm putting is that council support the MAV and 23 other local governments in their desire for a broad strategic review of the school crossing system, as was promised by the Victorian Government in 2016, and that council write to the Minister for Roads and Road Safety, calling on the Victorian Government to honour their commitment to this important system.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. That's moved. Councillor Holstead, seconded. Councillor Kent. Councillor Holstead.
Mr Mayor, I wish to state for the record that the services provided by our dedicated school crossing supervisors is an incredibly valued and necessary service that ensures the safe arrival of students to school. The management and funding of school crossings, however, is not a core responsibility of local government, although ratepayers have contributed more and more to the funding required to keep them going. Council will always put the safety of their residents first, and therefore we have continued to increase our funding redirected from local government services to prop up the ever decreasing contribution from the state government, who is cost shifting its duty of care. The Victorian government has repeatedly refused the requests of the MAV to conduct a review as they promised in 2016 and have reduced their funding to as little as 30%. Council has often required our own staff to cover shortages. The Municipal Association of Victoria are calling on state government to deliver on their promise in 2016 of a review of the system. Today, I'm asking Bass Coast to join the chorus of local government voices who are seeking the best possible system with full funding to ensure the safest possible travel of our students to and from school. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. I just say to the public, total cost for the council, 196,000, 68,000 that the state government will pay out of that. The next year, 232 forecast expenditure, state government will pay 72,000 government funding. I think the public should get their priorities right, and when they go to these candidate meetings, they should ask their candidates, are you going to look after our children out there in Bass Coast? And put your hand up and pay for this. Our children are the most precious things that we have in our community, and the state government should step forward, whoever that candidate is, and open their wallet for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Any other councillor wish to speak to this notice of motion? Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I in principle support the advocacy that Councillor Holstead is seeking for us to also support, and the advocating on behalf of the Municipal Association of Victoria, as well as requesting the Minister for Roads and Safety to honour their commitment to this important system. However, I also think it's important for us as councillors to recognise that community safety is also a responsibility of the council as well. And no pun intended, I don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater on this one. I think that we also have a responsibility for the safety of all of our residents, whether they're, newborn, school-aged or paying rates. And I think that while cost shifting is a really, really important issue that is ongoing, and it's a constant push and shove between us, state and federal governments, I think it's important to recognise that we shouldn't get carried away with the necessary, bargaining that might occur in these situations. So I just really want to bear that in mind. I highly value the support that's given to me personally for the safe crossing of my children at that road. But I think it's also important to not get overly emotional about this as well, and recognise that, community safety is everybody's responsibility, and it is also council's responsibility. So, the nuance around that is tricky for me. However, I do think that the cost shifting is something that needs to be recognised.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Dramatic. Any other councillor wish to speak to the notice? Otherwise, Councillor Holstead and reply.
Nothing further.
Nothing further. We'll put that then. Those in favour? That's carried. Which brings us to public question time. We have the first question is from Philip J. Dodges. Topic: Cows Cultural and Community Centre. Can council please inform me of the following: who the occupants of the new council building will be other than council staff? What are the timeframes and lease agreements for the tenants?
Through the Mayor. The objective of Cowes Cultural and Community Centre is to have maximum activation and dynamic utilisation. It will be actively managed by council staff. Community, cultural or heritage groups may be regular or casual users of the facility. All users of the facility will enter into a partnership or hire agreement, whether they are regular or casual users. Miley is the only organisation who will have a lease arrangement to provide the library service. Hire and partnership agreements will begin to be established in early 2023.
Question 2, Ross Bencraft, Sunderland Bay Surf Beach Special Scheme. Could council please provide the average cost of ratepayers in the Pioneer Bay Road Improvement Scheme, as well as the minimum individual ratepayer contribution and the maximum ratepayer individual ratepayer payment? What is the estimated average cost to individual ratepayers for the completed Surf Beach Sunderland Bay Road and Drainage Improvement Scheme?
Through the Mayor, the Pioneer Bay Special Charge Scheme project totalled $4.6 million and 230 residents contributed to 92% of the cost. This equates to an average amount of $18,400 per property. Costs range from $13,898 to $52,098 depending on the property size. Costs have not yet been determined and will depend on the preferred design options selected by the community, which is the basis of the current community consultation.
Natasha Cristani, Sunderland Bay Special Charge. Visitors benefit most from these main local roads. Council advised repeatedly visitors are our biggest economy. Shire reap economic benefits, so will they contribute more funds here, reflecting in less final figure all local resident ratepayers pay? Can Shire please advise, brackets when they know, what profit amount they will make in the markup from what they are quoted for the works as a matter of integrity and transparency to ratepayers?
Through the Mayor, special charge scheme costs are proportioned based on community benefit. Where there is a greater community benefit, council contributes more towards the project. The cost proportioning stage is undertaken in the next stage of the project. Council does not make a profit through a special charge scheme process. Section 165 of the Local Government Act specifies that if council receives additional money than what is required from a special charge, it must refund those contributions received to the landowners.
Graham Jolly, Operational Grants Funds. On the 30th of the 6th, 2022, the unspent operational grants funds was $2,543,000. Capital Grants Fund was $12,765,000. Total unspent of grants was $15,308,000. How much of the total of that amount has council spent in the first quarter up to 30/9/2022?
Through the Mayor, council has expended $2,635,000 of its unexpended operational and capital grants during the quarter ending 30 September 2022.
Philip and Anne Westwood, Bass Coast Shire Planning Scheme. Can council explain why the regional sand extraction strategy Lang Lang to Granville is not part of the Shire Planning Scheme as instructed when the strategy was gazetted?
Through the Mayor, whilst not formally incorporated into the Bass Coast Planning Scheme as an incorporated document, the regional sand strategy is referenced within the scheme and included as a background document. Background documents provide useful context in interpreting the planning scheme, but cannot be relied upon in assessing permit applications and planning scheme amendments. Council has recently advocated for a review of this strategy in the associated extractive industry interest areas and associated planning controls by the Victorian Government.
Michael Goods and Claire Diffie, electric vehicle charging stations. Council installed electric vehicles charging stations in Cowes at the transit location. For each of the charging stations, how many hours of charging usage has occurred from the initial installation date until 1/11/2022?
Through the Mayor, the electric vehicle charging stations at the Cowes Transit Centre are not separately metered or equipped with necessary software to report on hours of charging use.
Michael Goose and Claire Diffie again, Capital Works Program, Guy Road Shared Pathway. Guy Road Shared Pathway Project 100730 is a multi-year project listed in 2021. It is 60% complete with a carryover of $11,468,296. Please provide an explanation to the level of completion and forward planning completion for this project.
Through the Mayor, construction works continue to progress on site and the expected completion in the first quarter of 2023.
Questions 8 and 9 refer to the same topic and a single response will be provided. Kim Lightfoot, Mayor, moving a motion. At the council meeting 26/10/2022, the Mayor moved a motion as chair of the meeting. What are the meeting rules that warrants this action of the Mayor to move a motion? Melissa Dagg, Mayor, moving a motion. Section 8(1) of the LGA 2020 reads as law. The role of a council is to provide good governance in its municipal district for the benefit and well-being of the municipal community. Is it good governance for the Mayor to move a motion at a council meeting?
Through the Mayor, the Local Government Act requires the Mayor to present the annual report at a council meeting. There is no rule that prevents the Mayor from moving a motion at a council meeting.
Kim Lightfoot, installation of wind and solar energy. Federal and state governments are promoting the installation of wind and solar energy. Will council write to both governments advocating to include a permit clause for the removal of wind turbines and solar panels at end of life at no cost to taxpayers?
Through the Mayor, an environmental management plan covering construction, rehabilitation and monitoring is an application requirement for both wind and solar energy facilities under the Bass Coast Planning Scheme. Once approved, these plans form part of the planning permit and the responsibility for a removal of any infrastructure rests with the landowner.
Mel Pinkerton, old CFA building. It has been reported part of the Pickle operation will move into the old CFA building in the near future. Please provide an explanation of the works to fit out the interior of the building prior to Pickle occupancy.
Through the Mayor, the CFA building, once vacated, is proposed to be refurbished for use by the following community groups: Artists Society of Phillip Island, ASPI, Phillip Island Arts and Crafts Gallery, Phillip Island Contemporary Exhibition Space, Pisces, Boomerang Bags. $185,000 was allocated in the 2022-23 capital works for this project, which includes accessible toilet facilities, accessible ramp, heating and cooling, and other cosmetic upgrades.
Question 12 and 13 relate to the same topic and a single response is provided. Graham Jolly, quarterly report, capital works. Council's fourth quarterly financial report, capital works spreadsheet gives information of the Cows Cultural Centre. What is the metrics that determines the project is 80% complete as at 30th of June? Mel Pinkerton, Cows Cultural and Community Centre. The Cows Cultural and Community Centre project is a multi-year project reported 80% complete at 36/2022 with a carryover of $11,436,981. Please provide an explanation for the 80% complete with a carryover of $11,436,981.
Through the Mayor, the annual action plan reports against progress expected for that particular financial year.
That brings us to the end of public question time. It brings us to petitions, joint letters, deputations and correspondence, of which there are none. Mayor and councillor reports has become practice. They will be reported in the minutes. Just as I indicated earlier, my report will be put onto the council webpage as well as a wrap-up of the year. Brings us to statutory reports, and I request the council to move and second the agenda items 1.1, 1.2 and 1.3 be considered as a block. Councillor Lang, Councillor Bauer. Those in favour? Against, that's carried. The formal meeting of council records, planning and building statistics, September 22, contracts awarded. Does any council wish to speak to any of those reports? Councillor Lark.
Yes, in view of the San Remo Battle Axe report earlier tonight, and given that there are at least six two-lot developments reported in the statutory report, would it be possible, given notice, that council officers could provide a report in due course or a briefing in due course with regard to the difference of treatment and why one is knocked back and six approved, just to give some insight into how we approach from a policy perspective and a planning scheme perspective and a decisioning perspective in relation to two-lot developments, particularly
Certainly.
battle axe.
Certainly, Councillor Lark, we can take that on notice for a council briefing, but I think in this instance it was not backed by an alternative recommendation, so I'm not sure what the office. Councillor, sorry, Mr. Sturton, you want to add to that?
Thank you for giving me a promotion.
Yeah, well, I don't know about a promotion, but anyway.
The difference between the Genista applications that received 10 objections, so met that threshold to come to council, whereas the subdivisions listed in the statutory report would not receive any more than 5 objections, and so were approved under delegation. Now, officer's recommendation is consistent, so the officer's recommendation 26 Genista was also an approval.
Happy with that,
Yeah.
Councillor Lark? Yep.
I understand that aspect, but I'm trying to get a feel for why we would approve some, like apart from the objections, the substance of the subdivision, and put it in some context for us to have a look at going forward.
Okay, so I'll take that as you're asking for that to be included as part of a briefing, and we'll take that on notice to deliver on that. Thank you. Anything else?
No.
Councillor Kent?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question through you, Mayor, if I could, to one of the council officers for comment. Permits refused 2149. It's my belief that this permit was refused because our hands were tied, but it just reads not nice for me. It might read to the public that we've just knocked it on the head. I'm just wondering if the council officer could comment as to why it was refused.
Mr. Sturton?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe this was refused based on a referral advice. Take that advice, I'll follow up with council with regards to that one. Yes,
could I expand on that, Mayor, in that it's my belief that Melbourne Water knocked it back, and that completely out of our hands in regard
Okay.
for confirmation.
Very used, Mayor, that is correct.
So that is confirmed.
Thank you.
Anything else from councillors on the Dutch reports? If not, can I have a councillor to move and second that the recommendations attached to agenda items 1.1, 1.2 and 1.3b. Councillor Bauer? Councillor Lang? Those in favour? Against, that's carried. And that brings us to urgent business, again of which there is none advised. And that then comes to the announcement of the next meeting of council. The next council meeting will be held on the 14th of December 2022 on the Basque Coast Civic Centre, Council Chamber, Beaulieu Street East, 1:30, commencing at 1 p.m. Thank you for watching the live stream of council's meeting. The meeting has now concluded, and that'll end today's live stream.